What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the very first XFL breakdown here on Sharp Sports Network. I'm your host, Joe Biewer, and I'm very excited to be back making content here on YouTube. It's been a while since the NFL season, which we absolutely crushed. I'm very excited to be back here breaking down XFL content for you guys here every single week. Just to keep in mind, if you guys have not already signed up for an XFL pass on our website, you can go ahead and link is in the description, sharpsportsnetwork.com. Go ahead and pick up a season pass. It's an incredible deal. We crushed week 2 with Cardale Jones, DeAndre Tompkins. We had Roughnecks D. Everybody that popped off for the most part was in our lineups, and it was an incredible week. Looking to bring that here in this week 3 to the public here. So let's jump over here to Draftkings and Fanduel. We're breaking down both sites here. It's a really interesting week. We got a bunch of interesting matchups here. Last week, Houston was favored by a ton. They had a 50 over-under total for their game. DC is currently the biggest favorite here at 8.5 over LA. So really interesting pricing here after last week. A lot of people popped off and really just had some ceiling game performances and jumped some people's prices up to upwards of like 4,000 more than they were last week. So we're going to start off here in the quarterback section here. The top 4 guys is really all you're going to be looking at. Matt McGloin got a huge price dip last week after getting benched in the second half. So for me, I think a lot of people are going to look towards Philip Walker here. Just 2 ceiling games back-to-back for the most part, throwing a ton, 7 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. It's really just going to be a question of if he can keep this up. But the price increase of $900 really just, it kind of almost scares me a little bit off of him. Tampa Bay's defense is actually decent. It's not a terrible defense. Philip Walker has a lot of weapons to work with in Cam Phillips and Khalil Lewis. So, we're not, too worried about Philip Walker and his performance with all the weapons that he has. But I just don't think I can pay $11.5. Just the fact that you're going to be really limited in the upside and in the pairing that you're going to want, because I'm a very firm believer of whatever quarterback you pick, you should pair at least one receiver with him, just maximize your upside. If you pick Philip Walker and you put in Khalil Lewis, if you were to do that over here, you're pretty much capped. Your upside is pretty much screwed if you want to get any of these other top receivers in. So I'm probably going to go back to the well with my quarterback selection last week. Put up a decent performance. Cardale Jones, you get a nice savings off of Philip Walker, $700 savings. I think Cardale Jones got a little bit of an increase, only $600. It's not much, but he threw the ball 37 times last week, even in a blowout performance, 27-0 against New York. I think this is a great spot going up against a terrible LA defense. I think LA can keep this game close offensively. I know DC's been well, but Nelson Spruce should be able to keep this game a little bit close. For LA with Johnson behind the gun. So I think Cardale Jones is pretty much my favorite option here today. I know a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Jordan Ta'amu based on the performance last week. 4 total touchdowns, 3 passing with 1 rushing. Kind of saw a little bit of rushing upside from Ta'amu. He's pretty much the only mobile quarterback in this league that we've seen so far. So I really think that Ta'amu is going to be a popular option today at 10-1. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. The matchup-wise, team total, stuff like that. I'd just rather go against Cardale Jones for $700 more. Ta'amu is probably my favorite GPP play. Or potentially Josh Johnson in GPPs if he plays. But for me, I'm probably just going to stick with Cardale Jones. It makes the most sense to me. I think, we haven't really seen a huge ceiling game performance out of Cardale Jones yet. I think this is a game where we really see some sort of flashy play from Cardale Jones. Now, running back in the XFL has been really interesting. Last week we played Matt Jones and Davion Smith. Davion Smith didn't have the greatest game possible. Matt Jones did very well. So for me, it's really tough because this is not a running league, and it's pretty clear that this is a passing league only. So you really have to be pretty accurate in who you choose. James Butler got a pretty big increase this week after scoring a touchdown last week, but I've said during multiple times, if you take away the touchdowns, it's not really that big of a performance to justify $8,500 and a $2,200 increase. It just doesn't make too much sense, seeing that you have 7 points this week and 5 points this week if you take away the touchdowns. Seems very touchdown dependent and doesn't really make sense, as Houston's not a running team by any means with the weapons that they have in the passing game. But the biggest shock this week, and I think one of the more chalkier plays this week, is going to be Cameron Artis-Payne, who played a ton last week, almost 60% of the snaps over Lance Dunbar. He got very involved in the rushing game, and he got very involved in the passing game as well. He's got 9 targets over the past 2 games. I really like running backs that can get involved in both. I do like Cameron Artis-Payne a ton today. If you can get him in, he is a little expensive. I'll probably go back to the well with Matt Jones. I like him a ton today. It's going to be really easy to get him in, but the price increase just because of that 25-yard touchdown. He's just the running back that's been getting the most volume, and they're kind of really relying on Matt Jones a ton. So with that being said, probably those 2 guys are my favorites. Lance Dunbar's still last week, played him. I'm not going to complain about 13 fantasy points at 4,600. I did exactly what we needed to do. We got 12 targets over the past 2 weeks. I'll probably go back to the well with some Lance Dunbar as well. But I'll leave some of the other running back plays for the members. So if you're interested, go ahead and cop a pass. I think it's going to be very beneficial for everybody to get involved in Sharp Sports Network. Now, wide receiver is going to be the most crucial part this week. You're going to really want to pair somebody with your quarterback. For me, I'll probably go back to the well with Eli Rogers. I don't see how you don't. The targets have been there, 14 targets over the past 2 games. Hasn't reached the end zone yet, but has received double-digit fantasy points in both games. I don't see playing Rashad Ross over him. Rashad Ross has just not had the targets that are there. He's a deep ball guy only, kind of like Sammy Coates. So I would just rather play Eli Rogers. I think this is the best pairing that you can possibly have. And the pairing that gives you the most upside to really get some other guys in that you wouldn't be able to get in if you played Phillip Walker and Cam Phillips. Cam Phillips is a good play. Don't get me wrong. The defense is just something that I don't like. Tampa Bay's defenses look solid through the past 2 weeks, so I'm probably going to stay away from most of the Houston players unless it's in GPPs. So for me, I like Eli Rogers is pretty much my only high-tier guy. Dan Williams stands out to me a little bit as somebody who's received a ton of targets this week, but in week 1, but didn't really get anything in week 2. I think he's a nice play as sort of a bounce back. But the low-tier receivers is really where you're going to get DeAndre Tompkins, 9 targets last week. I really like him at 5.7K. Makes a ton of sense to me. Nick Holy again. I don't mind him as well. And then there's some others in the bottom that I'm going to leave for the members, but for the most part of the top 3 or 4 guys, I don't mind Nelson Spruce. The targets are there, and when a wide receiver, I just want to pay for volume. Volume is going to lead to catches, and they just like to throw this kid the ball. I believe he was a former Ram too. So for me, I just really think Nelson Spruce is another viable option. He's not too far off of Eli Rogers. But I'll probably stay away from Pearson L. I understand the 11 targets last week, but just doesn't really appeal to me. Battlehawks, I'm just not that big of a fan of their style of offense. I really like the DC Defenders. They seem like the standard passing offense that you would see in the NFL, similar to that of the Rams this past year. They have a ton of weapons, so I really like Cardale Jones. And then as far as defense, I do like the Roughnecks, but they got a big price increase, which kind of sucks. So I think the Renegades are probably my favorite defense. Decent performance, 4.2K is all you're really going to need. I like them a ton, but of course the Roughnecks are going to make it up there. I don't mind it, but Tampa Bay, you don't know which quarterback you're going to get yet, so that's why the Roughnecks are probably going to be the top quarterback or the top defense right now. Going into this week, after coming off of an incredible performance. And then the Defenders last week put up 25 fantasy, put up 22 the week before. They're showing that they have a really, really good passing defense as well. A couple pick sixes. That's why Nelson Spruce might make more of a GPP play, but the volume is going to be there regardless. So as far as defense, it's probably going to be the Roughnecks. Tampa Bay is just awful. The Renegades, Seattle's just not scoring points. They're not scoring any points at all. So it's really going to be ideal to attack Seattle as much as we can. Silvers is just, he threw 40 times the first week and then just kind of imploded against Tampa Bay. So I kind of like the Renegades defense as well. So with that being said, right now I'm really on Cardale Jones and Eli Rogers. For running backs, Matt Jones makes a ton of sense to me, and so does Cameron Artis-Payne. I know they're top tier, but they're just getting the most guaranteed volume right now, and that's kind of what you want. As far as points goes, volume is going to equal points in this case. And then defense, I think Roughnecks make a ton of sense, and so do the Renegades. But I would strongly try to only play 2 running backs max. I think the wide receivers in this league are way more valuable. It's way more of a passing league than it is a running league. So with that being said, good luck to everybody. If you're a member, get active in the Discord. Hit me up with any questions you may have. Cheat sheets are going to be out in the morning. Good luck to everybody, and if you haven't yet become a member, I strongly suggest you go and sign up. We're going to absolutely kill it just like the NFL season. Good luck to everybody, and I will see you all next week for another XFL breakdown here on Sharp Sports Network. Peace.